Have you been going throughout your life and you have been wondering how is it that you can actually get ahead in life, whether that's financially, whether that's mentally, emotionally, or whatever area of your life that is? Well, if that is the case, you're in the right place today because I'm going to be sharing with you three of the biggest lies that I actually bought. And I believe that what I actually learned from these three lies is going to be beneficial for you in any area of your life. However, today I'm going to mainly focus on financially. All right. So, when I was younger, I was like, look, I want to be able to be rich. And you might be thinking, well, Matthew, why is it that you want to be rich? Well, I grew up with my mom. It was just me and her. She was working 2 to 3 jobs just to be able to provide for us. I remember I asked her for an iPod Touch because my best friend had got one. And I was like, hey, mom, can I get this iPod Touch? She said no. And I was like, well, look, at least a brother asked, okay? At least I asked. So a couple of days later, she ends up calling me into the living room and she was like, you know, you've been doing really good in school. You've been doing your chores. And I actually would like to get you this iPod Touch. However, I'm not going to be able to get it. And here's the reason why. So she opened up her laptop and I see this Excel spreadsheet for the very first time. And it had a lot of red on it. So I was sitting there like, okay. And she was like, you know, basically I've been working and trying to provide, or not even trying, but just doing the best I can to provide. And we are even still behind on bills. And I was like, man, okay, well, I basically had even more of a gratefulness for her providing for us and going out there working. And I was like, man, that's actually pretty crazy. So I go back to my room and I'm like, all right, look, whatever ends up happening, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to figure out a way to be able to be rich because one, I want to be able to take care of my mom. And I know that they say you can't repay your parents. However, I want to be able to, retire my mom one day, be able to uh, pay for her to go on trips and different things like that. And the next thing is when I end up having children, when I end up having a wife, and actually a wife, then children. Okay, so once I end up having a family, I want to make sure that the reason why I say no to something is not because I can't afford it or we can't afford it, but the only reason that we say no is because we just don't want to do it. So, what is the first lie that I actually bought? All right, that leads us into this story. The first lie that I actually bought was to go to school. All right, to go to school. And the reason why I believe that this was a lie, and for some people it may not be, but the reason why I bought this lie is because I ended up thinking that money, or actually this leads me to the first thing, is because I thought that time was equal to money. And what I end up discovering is that time is actually not equal to money. And you might be sitting there thinking like, well, Matthew, my aunt said this, my uncle said that. And I know I was told that too. And I was told that, you get a hard earned day is equal to a hard earned pay. I was told that time is equal to money. I was told that, time is money and money is the root of all evil. And I was told all of these things. Money doesn't grow on trees. And I started to believe stuff like that. But the thing about it is, time is not equal to money because of the fact of when you lose time, even if it's just 1 second, you are not able to get that back. But if you lose one penny, you can always get another penny back. So time is not equal to money. So by me actually going to school, I was going to school because I believe that, look, if I go and I work 40 hours per week, then I'm going to be able to make a lot of money by whatever degree I end up having. For me, I end up going to school to become an engineer. And I thought that by becoming an engineer, that was going to allow for me to be able to earn a lot of money because I thought that time was equal to money. So what was the actual second lie that I end up accepting? Well, the second lie that I end up accepting is the fact that things just like that I have to work. I'll say that I have to work. And the truth be told, you don't have to work. And when I say you have to work to earn money, and the truth is, you do not have to work to earn money. And by reading this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, what I've actually discovered is that there are different types of mindsets when it comes to money. And if you do not have the right mindset, you are not going to be able to be rich. You know, there's a poor mindset, there's a middle class mindset, and there's a rich mindset. And with you not, or with you thinking that you have to work, you're always to make money, you're always going to be thinking about, okay, well, I need to go get this job, and maybe if I go do this, and maybe if I go do that, but you only have a certain amount of time in the day. So instead of you actually working for money, what is it that you have to do? You have to learn a skill set. So you have to learn a skill that's going to give you a high income or earns money for you. And when I say earn money for you, what I mean is you are actually going to work to earn money, and then you put that money to work, and it works 24/7 because money don't get tired. All right. So that was what I ended up discovering. And I was like, man, look, if I want to become rich, which I do, then it's not necessarily about how much I'm going to be able to work. It's not about how much money I'm able to make by working or exchanging my time. But I need to go and I need to develop a skill, learn a skill, and then I also need to be able to learn how to put my money to work. So this can be investing in the stock market. This can be investing in real estate. You know, different avenues are out there for people to be able to do this. But if you don't take the time out to learn it, then you are not going to be able to have a rich life. Now, what is the third thing? The third thing I personally believe is the most powerful one that I actually learned. All right. The third one that I bought, the third lie that I bought, I believe is the most powerful one. And that is, the third one is changing. And you might be sitting there thinking like, Matthew, what are you talking about with changing? So in the 90s, when computers first came out, you know, in early 2000s, they had these little square things called floppy disks. And many of you may not know what that is, but I was a part of the era where the internet and stuff was just coming out. And, you know, they had the Play Ball and Startup and the Windows and all that stuff. So what ended up happening is they would have these floppy disks. And when a new program actually came out, that program would be uploaded to a floppy disk. So for you to actually get the new software on your computer, what you would have to do is you would have to first put in the old floppy disk, uninstall the old programming, then you would take that floppy disk out and then put the new floppy disk in with the new program, and then you would be able to have an updated computer. Well, many people believe in life, and I used to think this, that I was not able to change. I used to think that things were just the way that they were, and they were just going to continue to be the way that they were, and that is wrong. When it comes to you deciding that you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you make the decision to change in your life, what you have to do is you have to go and uninstall all the old programming that you have had. You have to go and say, all right, look, I learned this from mom, I learned this from dad, I learned this from auntie, I learned this from uncle. I learned this from somebody I looked up to, and you have to say, does this actually serve me? And it's going to be hard. It's really going to be one of the hardest things, is because a lot of the things that you have learned, a lot of things that I have learned have been from people that I loved. And it hurts to kind of let that piece of them go, because it's like, man, they really taught me this, and it's that connection, but it's not serving you. So you have to let it go. You have to let it go, because it's going to keep you stuck if you do not change. And that is what is important. You have to change, and you have the ability to change, and it's going to take time. As I stated, you have to go and uninstall, which is really taking into account what it is that you learned. See if it served you, get rid of the things that don't, and then you have to give yourself time to go and learn new skills and develop new habits, which actually leads up to an illustration that I want to show you. So with me actually changing, here's what I discovered. First, with the finances. Reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I discovered this image right here, which is called a financial statement. You have your income, you have your expenses, and then down here you have what's called a balance sheet. And I will go through this further in another video. I really just want this to be a little quick. So when it comes to you being able to become rich, if that is a desire that you have to know these 4 things. And it's really going to start with these 2 right here, your income and your expenses. Now, for many people, the only income that they have, which is what I had for a long time, is my job. So my job would bring money in, and then what would happen, I would go from here and I would go straight out. And that's what happens with many people. The other type that ends up happening, and this right here, I'll say this right here is the poor mindset, all right? So this is the poor mindset. Now, the other one is the middle class mindset. And the middle class mindset, they have a job, and what they do is they end up having money and they buy liabilities, and when they buy these liabilities, now it goes up to expenses and then it comes out. And this is basically how people end up getting in credit card debt, and they start having all of these luxury things, living in apartments they can't really afford. And this is what causes them to constantly have to go to work. They have to go to work because they have to pay the money that they owe. But when you get to the point of having, and this is middle class mindset, that's in blue. Now, when it comes to the rich mindset, what do the rich do? Well, the rich actually start off at a job, and what they do is they say, I'm going to live off 50% of my income or live off a percentage of my income, and a part of my income I'm gonna buy some assets. And why am I going to buy assets? Because, and I forgot to give you all the definition of this, an asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So what rich people do is they go and they say, I'm going to use some of this money to buy an asset to put more money in my pocket, which then allows for my income to increase. And then once my income increases, now what I can do is I can go and I can purchase liabilities and I can pay for my expenses with the money that my assets are actually bringing in. And this is the mindset shift that you must have. All right. Before you ever become rich physically, you have to become rich mentally. And what ends up happening, which is the point that I wanted to get to, is your thoughts about money, which is also mindset. So your thoughts about money lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your habits, and your habits lead to the results that you actually have every single day in your life. And what I decided is, well, look, if I would really want to become rich, what am I going to have to do? I first got to change my mindset. I got to go and I have to get my income under control, which is my job for right now. And then I need to get my expenses under control. I need to make sure that I'm living within or below my means, which means that if, let's say, I'm earning $3,000 per month, instead of actually going and spending all of that $3,000 per month, I need to figure out a way to live off $1,500 to, let's say, $2,000 per month. And I know that's going to be a little difficult with inflation and, all those different type things, but you need to be able to do that. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, what do I do with the other $500? Well, the other $500, you're going to invest in yourself. And what does investing in yourself looks like? Well, investing in yourself looks like going and purchasing books. Investing in yourself is like purchasing courses. Investing in yourself is going to live events, going to seminars, going to webinars, and putting yourself in a different environment, because you need to change these 6 inches in between in between your ears, all right? You need to change that because that's ultimately what's going to allow for you to be able to become rich. And now that I have actually discovered that, what am I doing? You know, one of the series that I really like to go get is called For Dummies. So the For Dummies, and it's actually a lot of great information in there. Don't allow for people to make you feel bad because you want your financial situation to change. Because at the end of the day, and I'll leave you with this. One of the quotes that I really love is the fact that, you know, I was talking with my uncle one day and I was like, man, Unc, you know, I got this going on, and I don't really know what I should do. And, you know, people are talking about me and this and that. My uncle sat me down. He said, look, nephew, here's what I'm going to tell you. People are going to talk about you whether you're doing good and especially when you are doing bad. So why don't you give them something good to talk about? I hope y'all were able to get some value from this video. If so, make sure you leave a like down below, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace out for now.